change the... Hello and welcome to Toastmasters in the Community. My name is Fran Okeson and I'm the host today. With me today is Kevin Thompson. And that was a very beautiful speech you gave on this morning's meeting, Kevin.
Thank you, Fran.
And I hope we'll have fun on this show just as well. Alrighty, so let's move along. There might be a little problem with that number, but maybe people won't notice. We are doing episode 225, and today is April Fool's Day, and this is our afternoon meeting. So I want to thank my crew for coming in. We have a very limited crew. Poor Lucy Khan is being worked. You're being worked on this show. I think you're, well, let's see.
I'm doing everything but speaking.
Well, you spoke this morning, so yeah, we have to give you a break. You're up here making the table look grand today.
Oh, well, thank you, Fran.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And that was a compliment.
Thank you.
I'm always waiting for the jig to come after the compliment, though. All right, I'm going to start with my speech today. Earlier, we had Jerry Greyhawk from the Red Storm Drum and Dance Troupe on. That was a wonderful speech he gave. Anyway, all right, today, I'm doing speech number 5 from the, the Speaking to Inform Advanced Manual. It's the abstract concept, which means abstract concepts, sometimes people are confused about that, but it's something we all know what it means, but you can't hold it in your hand. So that is what I'm talking about today. Lucy Khan is my evaluator, and my title is Respect is a Two-Way Street. Now, ladies and gentlemen of the home audience and our studio audience here, when I turn my page to the right page, I will tell you what's on my mind. Sometimes things just get to me, and I figure that, yeah, I know, thank you, I know it was here. Okay. We read the paper every day. If you don't read a newspaper, well, then you watch TV, or you hear people talk. And what do they talk about? Anytime a policeman does anything out of the ordinary, somebody has to want him up on charges. This goes on too long, and I had this title for so many months, and I just wasn't focused on where I was going with this speech. Respect is a two-way street. So, folks, I'm going to tell you, my firm belief is that if you treat people who work for the city, firemen, well, everybody likes a fireman because they stop fires. People get angry at police officers, but police officers are just as important as anybody else. So I'm going back to when I was a child in grammar school. I lived 2 blocks away from St. Mary's Elementary School, and between my house and the street where my school was, the cop on the corner, his nickname was Red. He had strawberry blonde hair. And when you got to that corner, if the light was red and you put your foot off the curb, Red would go to your family, and when you got home, you got punished because you did what you weren't supposed to do. So we all respected Red. He was the cop on the corner. And believe it or not, he knew where we all lived. Mm-hmm. A close-knit community out in Flushing. All right. Now, I mentioned this morning that I got married in 1960. Well, I met my husband in the New Dorp bowling lanes in 1959. And the whole Okeson family had one team, and I was on another team. It was just, I was living in the Wadsworth Hall Hotel at the time, which is right where the bridge plaza is to the Verrazano Narrows Bridge. And that hotel is no longer there. But it was full of military people from Fort Wadsworth. And one of the men in the hotel was a retired banker. And one day he said, they're starting a new bowling lane down in New Dorp. Would you like to be my partner? I knew nothing about bowling. And he said, oh, you'll love it, you'll love it. Well, I went with him, and it was all right. But then one night we played against the Okeson family, and, well, my husband's brother made a 300 during his lifetime. And this is the way things were. All right. So let me get my glasses on so I can just see what I'm looking at, because otherwise I can't. All right. So my husband and I dated for just a short while, and he was going on 40, and I was 23, and I sort of had an idea that he was interested in maybe popping a question. We got along very, very well. One day he invited me to dinner at his brother Al's house, Al and Betty, and as I was going from the hotel along past Mount Loretta, I guess I was going a little bit too fast because I was very interested in getting there on time and being the dutiful, hopeful new member of the family. And I heard, oh boy, so I pulled to the curb. Police officer came up and he said, you were speeding. That end of Highland Boulevard It's all open. So was I frightened? I was. But I'm also Irish and I'm full of blarney. So I said, officer, I'm very sorry. I can go back for all these 50-some odd years. I'm very, very sorry, but I think my boyfriend's going to propose to me tonight at his brother's house. And he said, oh, he said, you're anxious to get there? He said, look over there. You see a cemetery? If you keep driving like you're driving, you won't get there. You'll be in the cemetery. Oh, thank you, officer. Am I going to get a ticket? They might not want me in the family. He said, go, but behave yourself. So I got out of that. And I learned that if you speak with a little bit of respect and a little bit of stupidity and you don't get fresh, policemen are very nice people. Now that goes back to 1959. And yes, I was proposed to it that night. All right, Dolores Akulowicz, do you remember her?
No.
A buddy of mine from Staten Island. We traveled all over like Joan and I traveled for many, many years. Dolores and I, when I was district governor, had to do a contest way up in Basking Ridge. On the way, we got lost. And on the way, I saw a traffic light up there. Unfortunately, I didn't see a stop sign here. Went right through the stop sign. Again, you get used to that. Police officer came over. I started to laugh. He looked like my grandson. Tall, young fella, looked like he was afraid of me and I was afraid of him. And I said, officer, I see the light. He said, yes, but you missed the stop sign. He said, license and registration. Dolores, who never wore pants in her life, had a skirt on. She went into my glove compartment and took everything and dumped it upside down in her lap. So, of course, the current registration was underneath. So I said, oh, you look just like my little grandson. I said, he's a good-looking boy, too. And we started chatting, and he said, did you find it yet? And he was all business. She finally found it. He said, where are you going? I said, I don't know, but please, if you give me a ticket, I have to come back here again. I may do something else again. I come from Staten Island. He said, you come from Staten Island. What are you doing here? I said, well, I'm district governor. I told him where I was going. He said, you know what? Follow me. I'll take you right to the door.
Thank
Good.
goodness.
So he made a U-turn, and I stayed there, and Dolores said, what are you doing? I said, if I make a U-turn, he's going to give me a ticket to make a U-turn. So he stayed where I was. So he's going like this. So I said, you want me there? Well, I got out of that ticket, all right? Let's go on another one. Oh, working on the polls on election day. I was a poll site coordinator. I had to go and, make sure everybody did everything right. A man came in with an attitude, and he was electioneering. He had a shirt on, a bag with the candidate's name on it. So I walked over very politely, and I said, would you mind going to the men's room and turn your shirt inside out? You can't have that shirt on here at the poll site. They started giving me an argument. So rather than be looking like a fool, I went over to the police officer, and I said, would you please escort him out because he can't stay in this room like that? Policeman knew exactly what to do. He just told him, you have to come with me, sir, and if you want to vote, you have to turn your shirt inside out. Another time we had an officer, and my poll mate, who was on the polls for over 50 years, had a lot of pills to take every day. So policeman was sitting over there, and she's putting all her pills, all different colors, on the table. He walked over to me because he didn't realize she was the boss. She was the Dem, I was the Republican. He said, are you aware of what she's doing? I said, officer, she needs that, but she knows more than the people at the Board of Election knows. He said, as long as you can vouch for her. Again, respect. I didn't tell him it's none of your business. Let me just see if there's any one more. I hope they realize I have 7 minutes down there. All right. Oh, this was a good one. We were coming home from someplace, could have been here. It was dusk. Peter and I were in the car. I pulled in to get gas right before Page Avenue, and I said to Peter, remind me when we leave here to turn on the lights. Well, by the time we got our gas and got out, he forgot to tell me to turn on the lights. And we
Blame Peter again, right?
No. God's honest truth. Peter, he knows he's to blame. We just went the 2 blocks past Page Avenue. Again, I pulled over. I turned on the lights. Policeman came up and he said, oh, I see you turned on your lights. I said, officer, I asked him when we got gas, would you please remind me when we start the car to turn on the lights? It's dusk. He said, would you please open your window the whole way? He put his head inside. He said, oh, your gas tank is full. I said, I wouldn't lie to an officer of the police department. I said, I just told you I filled up the tank. He said, it's a good thing you filled it because I believe you. He looks at Peter and he says, when your mother tells you to remind her about something, he yelled at Peter. So I figure,
That's just wrong.
That's not wrong at all. Sometimes children, even if they are this age, they have to be put down. But I've never had a ticket in my life. I hope never to have a ticket in my life. And remember, respect is a two-way street. And I hope they put up my shield. There's the shield that Peter got online. Isn't that an effective shield?
That's beautiful.
So, folks, no, my message to people is just treat policemen with respect that they deserve. And my favorite television show is Blue Bloods. And I don't know if it's because of Tom Selleck or just that I like that whole family.
And I thought you were going to say Car 54, Where Are You?
No, jerky things. Blue Bloods is my favorite show. I'd love to get Tom Selleck down here to do a show with us.
Oh, please.
I know, but maybe...
You wouldn't be able to say anything. You'd just be sitting there looking.
Oh, no, I could look at him all through
That's
the show.
That's exactly
Then
what I'm
you'd have
saying.
to take a back seat, stay behind your camera.
That's fine. I don't have a problem with that.
Now, one of these days, I'm going to write him a letter and just ask if he's ever in New York. Maybe
Listen.
he has to get clearance from somebody, but anyway. All right, let's move on. Now, this is very, very exciting for us to share this next speaker with the home audience. Folks, this is my director, Isaac Gilbinovich, who last Tuesday evening won the Area 64 International Speech Contest. At the end of April, he will advance to the Division F International Speech Contest with the winners from all the areas in Division F. I've asked Isaac to redo the speech now so he can get a copy of the tape, and then he can review the things that I thought needed to be reviewed because we did tape in a small boardroom and the acoustics weren't that great. And I've asked Kevin Thompson to be his evaluator because, Kevin, you've been around the block many times and you've seen a lot of contest winners. And I want you to really be critical because this next, and I wish the talking would stop in the back, please, people. All right, so Isaac, you're going to be doing exactly what you're going to do at the end of the month. And lots of luck to you. And your title is My Mountain. Let's all welcome Isaac Gilbinovich.
Thank you, friend. Pardon my standing with my back to you. Okay. Do we have any downhill skiers in the audience? And my fellow audience members, if you were with me today, you wouldn't see anybody in the audience. So it's just a rhetorical question. But I love to ski. I was born and raised in Georgia, not the state, the country. It borders with Turkey, with Black Sea. There is not much snow over there. Actually, I've seen snow 5 times in my life, 2 of them on the picture. So downhill skiing wasn't one of my favorite activities. I came to the United States in 1980. 1983, I got married. And soon after, one of my best friends calls me, says, Isaac, we're going to ski. Would you like to join us? Why not? Never done it before. So my young wife and I decided to go skiing. We went to Killington, Vermont, a beautiful resort, 6 mountains, hundreds of trails, and me, ready to conquer the mountain. I'm a first-time skier. I wouldn't spend thousands of dollars on equipment, so skiers know I'm renting. And renting is not comfortable. But I don't know anything better, so I'm standing there, ready to ski. I wanted to sign up for a lesson like any beginner should. But my friend, Gene, expert skier, he says, Isaac, you don't need the stinking lesson. Let's go up the mountain. I'll teach you everything you need to know. Sounds simple. I said, okay. What if I want to slow down? I said, no problem. Just do whoosh, whoosh, and you slow down. So it looks simple. I said, what if I want to stop? I said, don't worry. Just do whoosh, and you stop. So, okay, let's go. So I'm getting with them on a chairlift. And for non-skiers, chairlift is a contraption, takes you up the mountain. It's up one way. But I didn't know anything about it, so I'm sitting there enjoying myself immensely. Wind in my face, looking, scenery so wonderful. People down there skiing, looking so nice. And I'm going up, and up, and up, and up. And now I'm on top of the mountain. So now I have to get off of this thing. And my friend says, don't worry. Just, it'll push you. Just push it off, it'll push you. It pushed me. See, on top of the mountain, there was a little slope. And on the bottom of that slope, there was a little puddle of water. Icy cold water. I could see it's icy cold because ice was floating in this water. And everybody's whooshing around it, and I whooshed right into it. And I'm sitting in icy cold water. And I hate everything. I hate my friends for making me go up with them. I hate myself for agreeing. I hate the snow. I hate the mountain. And I remember thinking, God, I just got married. I'm a newlywed. I want to have children one of these days. And I sincerely believe that guy upstairs looked at me and said, okay, schmuck, I'll give you one more chance. I have a beautiful daughter. Okay, but now I have to get up and get down to the bottom of the mountain because that chairlift doesn't take you down. It's one-way ticket. So I'm getting up, and I said, what do I do? My friend says, don't worry about it. You just point your skis down the slope, and they'll take you. They took me. Faster and faster. Now I have to slow down. I remembered, whoosh, whoosh, so I whooshed this way, but I forgot to whoosh the other way. Now I'm going this way. And there are trees, a lot of them. And they don't stop, and I'm not either. So you have two choices. Either get stopped by a fall or get stopped by a tree. I decided to fall. I got down to the bottom of this mountain. I'm not going to tell you how many times I fell on the way down. It wasn't pretty. I was all bruised up. Finally, I got to the bottom, and I hear laughter. It's my wife. She's a very smart woman. She was enjoying herself on a bunny slopes. And for non-skiers, the bunny slopes are the beginner slopes. It's there where I should have been if I wasn't that stupid. So it seemed like I didn't conquer the mountain. It seemed like the mountain defeated me. What's your mountain? Has it defeated you? I said to my wife, we're going home. We're going back to New York. I quit. And my wife said, the smart woman she is, said, Isaac, we came so far. Don't quit yet. Sign up for a lesson like you wanted to. Give it another shot. Don't quit yet. I listened, and I did sign up for a lesson. And in 1 hour, they changed my hate of everything and everybody to maybe liking it, and then loving it. And now, for more than 30 years, I'm a ski enthusiast. And I am going downhill doing whoosh, whoosh. And I enjoy it. So after all, it seemed like I did conquer my mountain. What's your mountain? Have you conquered it? Or did you want to quit like I wanted to years and years ago? Don't quit yet. Find another slope. Find another way. Don't tell yourself, I cannot do that. Ask yourself, how can I do that? And I promise you, you will conquer your mountain.
Very nice, Isaac. Very, very nice. Thank you. Okay. All right. I think somebody just opened the door and left it open. My legs are freezing.
I think you got a little whoosh whoosh.
Maybe some of the snow splashed under the table. All of a sudden, I got cold air.
Got a little snow down there, huh?
Our next speaker, I'm going to hear about that all the way home. Our next speaker is Lucy Kahn. You're bad. Lucy, hello, Lucy. Bring some sanity to this part of the room. You're doing speech number 6, vocal variety, and you have 5 minutes, and Sue Brooks is your evaluator, and your title is It the GPS's Fault? Let's all welcome Lucy Kahn.
Good morning, fellow Toastmasters, guests, and viewing audience. How many of you has a GPS? The GPS means Global Positioning System. It's a device like this, a GPS. Many years ago, my children get me a nice Christmas gift. It's a nice GPS. And I said, what brand is this? And they told me, like, we don't know. We ordered it in eBay. I said, why are you giving me this GPS? They said, it's the cheapest GPS we can find. So I said, well, thank you for my Christmas gift. So I said, okay, why don't you try your GPS? So my girlfriend said, yeah, you got a new GPS? I said, yes. And they told me that it tells me from point A to point B directly, shortcut. So she said, why don't you come and see me in Jersey City? It will only take you 30 minutes. I said, okay. So I put my GPS, take the direction, and it took me 1 hour. going to Jersey City. The GPS told me to make a right, then make a left, make a right. And I said, what's going with this GPS? Will you please let me know? So finally, I said, I'm going my way because I know where I'm going. So the GPS said, recalculate, recalculate. I said, stop recalculating. So I went to my house, to my girlfriend's house, and she said, what takes you so long? I said, it's the GPS fault. So she said, yeah, you're right. You probably, you better buy a new GPS. And I said, I don't know. So I said, maybe I'll try to change it again. When I go home, I put it on my direction to go home. So the GPS took me home, but it went to the wrong direction, the opposite direction of my house. I said, what is going with this GPS? So I called my children. I said, what kind of a GPS did you give me? So they said, Mommy, it's a GPS that is clueless. So I call my GPS clueless. So every time I go anywhere, I want to make sure that Cloris knows where direction is, and I have to get my MapQuest to make sure that if GPS tells me to make a right, I have to go make a left to make sure that I go to the right direction. And sometimes when I go for meetings, I'm always late because the GPS took me, clueless, took me to the highest and longest way to go to my meetings. And when I arrived there, they will look at me like, what takes you so long? And I said, it's the fault of the GPS. So then I said, this is it. I'm going to give this to my daughter. This way she can have it. And my daughter said, Mommy, I don't like it. I want to return it to you because you're right, it's a clueless GPS. So then my girlfriend came and she said, I want you to come with me. I said, where? There's a nice restaurant in Belmar. Belmar, that's a faraway place. So I said, I have a new GPS. And I said, what kind? TomTom. Anybody has TomTom? So we went to go to this new restaurant, and TomTom took us a long way. So finally, I said, are you sure this is the new restaurant? You know where it is? I said, yeah, it's in here. TomTom said, go right, go left, go right. And finally, I said, let's do it. I said, don't follow TomTom. She said, yeah, but this is the only way we can go. So then I saw the restaurant on the right. I said, make a right, make a right. And TomTom said, you turn, you turn. And my girlfriend said, I have to follow TomTom. You turn, no, make a right. So we make a right. As soon as she parked the car, TomTom said, arrive at destination. And as you know, I told you, it's the GPS fault. So she said, it is going to be GPS fault if I follow his direction to go U-turn. So you mean to say it's not? So she said, well, I follow your direction, so we're okay. So I said, forget about TomTom. So now, I get ready. I said, I'm not going to buy TomTom anymore. If I want to have a new GPS, I'm going to have a new Garmin, and that's why I have Garmin GPS. I forget about TomTom, I forget about Clueless. And this is a very good GPS. But guess what? You have to make sure that you read the direction, because they give you 3 kinds of direction: shortcut, long cut, and with toll. So if you go there and you want some shortcut, it would tell you to the shortest distance, but you have to pay more tolls. So be careful when you have your GPS. If you are late, you have a good reason to be late. It's because of the GPS fault. Thank you.
Oh, I'm not good with technology at all.
Oh, that was hysterical. TomTom, Clueless.
I never heard of them. Are they legitimate?
I don't know. It is April Fool.
Oh, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. All right, our next speaker is Paul Who's manning your camera?
I'm not sure. I had
well,
to abandon my
your
post
camera,
temporarily.
you're up here.
It's a ninja. You can't see them.
Well, I can't see anybody there, and the lights are here. I guess maybe Richard's running around all 3 cameras right now.
Richard's amazing.
He needs roller skates, or he needs a GPS like
See, I wasn't even going to talk about that because Richard is really her GPS.
Oh, jeez. Okay, Paul, you're doing speech number 4, speaking to Inform Advanced Manual, the fact-finding report. You have 5 minutes. Joan Marizio is your evaluator. And this sounds very interesting. I took it wrong. His title is, Should You Buy an Electric Car? And I said to Peter, that's what I need. I don't like driving anymore. He said, no, electric car, you mean the car that drives itself. I got
No,
so
no,
confused.
no, no. That was another speech that I gave, but I gave that one in Hoboken.
Okay, no, but I'm getting old. Bear with me, you know.
Okay,
So electric
certainly.
car, I just thought it was something I could then drive. Anyway, Paul, tell us all why we should buy an electric car.
Okay.
Paul Paradise.
Thank you. Fellow Toastmasters, should you buy an electric car? Well, as you know, electric cars right now are not as popular as their counterparts, the hybrid cars. Currently, there are about 40 hybrid models on the road, and I think there are less than 10 electric vehicles on the road. And one reason why is cost, but the biggest, perhaps, disincentive is the battery. It takes about 20 minutes to half an hour to charge the battery, and also there are not that many stations in which to charge the car. So if you're on the road and your battery is running low, you have to find a charging station, and frankly, there are just not that many of them on there. However, I'm going to propose that if you're in the market to buy an electric car in the future, you should consider one, and in a number of years down the line, you'll very likely want to buy an electric car. And so you have to look at this historically. At one point, the electric car was the darling of the auto industry. In around 1900, 30% of the market were electric vehicles. They won many land awards. They were, for example, there was one Belgian auto manufacturer who won an award. He built a race car that went 62 miles an hour, and it was shaped like a torpedo, and it was very, very lightweight materials. Some of the manufacturers around at that time were the Baker Electric, the Detroit Electric. Woodrow Wilson and the Secret Service ran around in a Milburn electric car. So what happened to the electric car? Well, one of the reasons why it started to decline, ironically enough, was the invention of the electric starter. The gas engine operated cars had a defect, is that to start it, you had to use a hand crank. And when you started, it was very dangerous because the engine started and it would start to bolt forward, and it could actually injure the person who was starting the car. So that was a big boost for Henry Ford and the Model T. And another problem was with the battery-operated car, it had a limited distance. So starting in the roaring 20s and moving forward, the electric car started to decline, and by the Depression years, the electric car had all but disappeared. What we started to interest people in the electric car was smog, believe it or not, and which became a big problem starting in the 1950s. The Great London Fog of 1952 killed 2,000, I think it was 2,000 to 4,000 people in a very short period of time. In 1953, smog killed upwards of 300 people in New York City alone, and the car was. People began to look at the car in a different light, and all of a sudden interest began to renew in the electric car. The Arab oil embargo was another disincentive. So one auto manufacturer that began to look big time at electric cars was Honda. They also began to realize that if they could manufacture an electric car, it would be easier to manufacture one. You didn't have all these moving parts. So they spent quite a number of years trying to come up with an electric car. They did come up with one. However, the battery for this car weighed 1,000 pounds, and it was just considered to be not quite feasible. But they did come up with a hybrid, which was the Honda Insight. And this came out just a few years, or just about the same time, I think, as the Toyota Prius. The first really hybrid car was the GM EV, which came out, I think, just ahead of the Toyota Prius. It was well received, but it didn't last very long, and it was put out of business essentially by the Toyota Prius. However, I think one of the big incentives was the lithium-ion battery, which you see in your laptop computer. And the big breakthrough in the electronic EV car was put together by a man named Elon Musk. Now, you may have heard of his name recently because he has a company called SpaceX, which uses recyclable booster rockets. Well, anyways, he started a company called Tesla. And he had this idea of designer electric cars. He went to Silicon Valley, and the Tesla, which came out in 2004, is an electronic designer car. It's very expensive. It's like $120,000, $130,000, but it can go from 0 to 60 miles an hour in 4 seconds flat. This car did very, very well. He borrowed some money from the government to start this car, and all of a sudden car manufacturers began to relook at the electric vehicle. The next really big breakthrough came through with Nissan, which came out with the Leaf, which stands for Leading Environmentally Affordable Friendly Car. This did well. So Tesla and the Leaf were the two leading car manufacturers until this year, when Chevy came out with the Bolt, B-O-L-T. And what's interesting about the Bolt, which won a Car of the Year award, is its battery, which has a 225-mile radius, which essentially will take you from New York to Massachusetts, which seems to have made a huge stride in terms of what is always being considered to be a defect or an obstacle. So with that in tow, it seems like the technology is starting to move a big forward in terms of what has been holding back the electric vehicle. And also, think forward. The hybrid has always been a hybrid using the gas and the electric vehicle. The technology or the environment, think of the hybrid as a combination of the gas and the electric. The gas engine is really on the way out. It's really the electric that is the way of the future. And with that in mind, I think that going in the near future, it's really the electric vehicle that people are going to want to purchase. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster.
Oh, very interesting, Paul. Thank you very much. I don't know. Everything's changing so much, you know?
It's shocking.
It is. It is, all the technology.
Or like they said in that dance, it's electric. You know,
Would you
no.
feel comfortable?
Oh, sure, no question about that.
Really?
No question about that.
Okay. All right. I guess my driving days are coming to an end. I'll have to go get the old donkey out of the backyard. Anyway, okay. Our final speaker today is Joan Maurizio, who looks like she's reading the Staten Island Advance over there. Is that what you're reading, Joan?
2015.
2015?
Yeah.
It's time to get up. You know.
Back to the Future.
Do the same rules stand? That's the name of the speech, or something like that.
You're doing speech number 8, getting comfortable with visual aids. Is that one of your aids in the
That's
front
one
of
of
the
them.
hole over there?
Yep.
All right. You have 5
Don't
minutes.
tell everything to everybody.
No, I was just wondering if she remembered, did she stuff something in the lectern over there?
I stuffed a few things in the lectern.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay, and you're her evaluator, so stop laughing and pay attention now. Okay? All right. Joan's title is Do the Rules Ever Change? That's what you told me last night.
That's
Do
right.
the
We're gonna
rules
find
ever
out.
change. Okay, let's all welcome Joan Maurizio.
She already told about my paper, so I did get my information from the paper. The thing is, does the news or the rules ever change? These days, fellow Toastmasters and viewing audience, the rules really don't change. They stay the same. People will change their mind about how they feel about a product. But I was noticing this article from 2015, I was already using stuff before it came out. So I was happy to know I was doing the right thing. One of the things they talk about is how you should eat and why. And they talk about the different rices in the first thing that they mention. And the question is which is the rice that's best? And wild rice happens to be the best. I like wild rice. It's very, very expensive. So they recommend you take the wild rice and you mix it with brown rice. However, after Dr. Oz's report about the white rice having arsenic in it and the brown rice having even more arsenic, I stopped rice. I don't really need it. It's one of those starchy foods, but it's one of the better ones. So, all right, we go to the next food. And they talk about real Parmesan cheese. I meant to bring it. I left it home. I apologize. I have Kraft's Parmesan cheese, and in it says cellulose to keep the cheese separate. And it's terrible. Folks, you're eating wood pulp. If that's what you're interested, go ahead and have your Parmesan cheese. I actually get mine and I grate it fresh. I don't have a whole lot of it, so it's not something that I am involved in too much investing as far as money goes. They talk about the herbs, and people don't realize today, to get the herbs at the cheapest price they can, they need to be speedy. That speed is everything. What they do in this process now is they don't take care of the herbs carefully. What they do is they strip the herbs off of the plant with chemicals. So I'd say, get organic herbs. I have organic spices in my bag over there. I don't want to bring everything up. But then they had another thing about balsamic vinegar. And I have some of that. And I said, wow, let me read this article again. And what happens is, this happens to be the one that they mentioned in the article. And I said, wow, I actually did something right. And this vinegar, you can't see it, but it's probably about 80% gone. It's still good. You keep it in the fridge, and it can do you no harm. It can do you no harm. I realized I got out of the box. Sorry, Pat, I remember your speech about staying in the box. The next thing they talk about is virgin olive oil, and it's got to be extra virgin olive oil. But now you have to be careful because a lot of companies are adding to the olive oil, and it's all kinds of garbage, including vegetable oil. One of the last things they recommend is real vanilla. Is it worth it? You know, if you take enough fake vanilla, you can get a headache. Also, what happens with vanilla, if you use real vanilla, if you put it in the cooking that you're doing, the baking products, they say add it as the last ingredient because the heat actually takes the flavor and everything away, the essences. Another thing they mention is Himalayan salt. That's this bit right here. I actually started buying this years ago, Himalayan salt. What happened is they took iodine out of the salt, and it's just now sodium. You're really not getting any benefit from it. Like when I was growing up, we had iodized salt. I remember Morton salt with the little girl with the umbrella. So now I buy this, and that's all that I ever use. However, they say that in the article there's no benefit. I want to show you something that's called a lava lamp. I have it on the other side of the lectern. And this is something that if you put it in your room and you use it as a light, I don't know if you can see it, it's lit up there now, it actually gives out positive ions. And what happens is it calms you down. It's also warm. It radiates a little bit of heat. That's why you can control this gadget and make it a smaller watt, because it goes from 5 to 15. So I'm going to lower it so you can see. And then you can actually turn it off. But what I think is so funny is they say there's no benefit, and yet there's people that are into health and nutrition, and there's rooms that they have just nothing but Himalayan salt rock all over, and they put these big flames behind it, and it lets out all these beneficial ions, and people really do feel the benefit. So in 2015, they said that it was not that great of a benefit. I'm going to tell you right now it is. What they're saying here is not true. But they research, and this is how you find out. The last thing is maple syrup. And make sure it says 100% pure maple syrup. What's going to happen is you're going to pay a lot for it. But you know what? I've had this bottle since about 6 months ago, and I don't douse my stuff with it. I actually put a little cup, and I put each mouthful that I take with my fork, dip it in the little cup. If I need more, then I put a little more, instead of slathering it all over the plate. Yeah, you do that with the corn syrup, which is a piece of garbage as far as I'm concerned. But this maple syrup is fantastic. So I want to tell you all, did it apply then? It does apply now, except for what they said about the Himalayan salt. I would agree with most of what they said years ago. And if you remember your parents and the products going way back, we didn't have all this junk food. So junk food is replacing stuff. It's cheap, it's inexpensive, and this is what people are going for because everyone's hooked on sugar. And one last thing I would like to add, since I have a little more time, is a friend of mine told me, and I thought he was kidding around with me, but he said to me, do you know sugar is more addictive than cocaine? And when you think of it, there's places you can go for rehab to get off of cocaine. Is there any place you can go to get off of sugar short of going to see somebody that's a nutritionist specialist? Fellow Toastmasters, I know I learned something. I hope everybody else has learned something too. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joan. Don't forget to take your lamp at the end of the day. Okay, now we'll go into the evaluations. And Lucy, are you ready with my evaluation? Oh, there she goes with her roller skates again. I try not to get the two timers up there back to back.
Right, that makes it difficult for them. Yeah.
I know, I just didn't have that many people today. Okay.
Good morning, fellow Toastmaster.
No, it's afternoon
guest,
now, Luce.
viewing audience, and Fran. I like your title, Fran. Respect is a two-way street. I believe in being respectful and everything, because being respectful makes your life easier. So I like your story about your childhood day, about respecting the police officer, and it goes through your life and getting rid of tickets because you're very respectful with the officer, and the officer is very happy to have you because you are really telling them the truth, which is good And plus, this officer believes in you, and you get rid of all the tickets. So, talking about you working at the poll, that's another story, because I believe that if you argue with somebody, maybe you can have somebody to do this argument, and it will eliminate you for trouble, which is very nice. I like the way you handle it with the officer at the poll. Respect will get you out of trouble, and you treat people. If you treat people with respect, you will be treating the other people with respect you. So it is really a two-way street, and I believe that being respectful is very good because it helps you to become a respectful person. And sometimes when you are respectful, everybody will respect you. And I believe in doing that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lucy. Just make sure I get my manuals back today, okay? Thank you very, very much. Now, Isaac, Kevin, would you please tell us what you can help Isaac with his speech?
Sure, more than happy to. Fellow Toastmasters guests, our viewing audience at home, and of course, my friend Isaac, who is in the booth. So my mountain, this speech is a speech I've kind of heard before from Isaac, so I have some background insight that most of you don't have, and heard this speech years ago. And Isaac is a crafty storyteller. And I just have a few things that I think that Isaac could benefit from to make his story even more powerful. The most important thing to me, Isaac, is that you lost something. Do you know what that is? I just showed you. It's the pause. So Isaac, I think that if you add more pauses in, you will not step on the laughter that is organically generated in that speech. So you say, I'm from Georgia. Pause. Soviet Georgia. Mm-hmm. You know, or the black, and pause at the Black Sea. Pause at the Six Mountains. Pause at thousands of mountains. And so when you go back and take a look at this video, you'll understand exactly what I'm speaking of. Give the audience an opportunity to digest what you're saying, connected to what you said previously, so that it allows them to laugh and then allows room for them to laugh. Your swish swish, I would just recommend that you have an opportunity for humor here, and I'd like for you to change that whole idea of swish swish, because you start with the swish swish, and that's excellent, to swish wish, or add the fact that after the swish swish, you wish that you could stop, or and that when you went into the water, you wished that you swished, or before you went into the tree, you wished. You know, and so it's a play on words, but it also adds humor to that whole process. And then the last thing, the one lesson, change my wish into a dream come true. So you wished for this to happen, and you took the lesson, and that one lesson became your dream come true in you addressing the issues of your mountain. And if people did the same thing and they changed their wish and took an action, positive action, they can make their dream come true and conquer their mountain as well. Overall, excellent speech. I think if you add these things or consider them in your next speech, you have an opportunity to take it all the way.
Oh, yeah, you pointed out some good things. I like the play on the swish swish and all that
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah. Never too much when you start laughing. Yeah, very good. That's why I figured that you would get to the bottom of that.
Thank you.
Okay, now let me see. Sue, you're telling us about GPS. I guess you have a car that has a GPS in it? Do you? You're allowed to
Let me
answer
tell you about Lucy and her GPS. Is it the GPS is full?
Oh, that's right.
Lucy was speaking from the speech for Keep Them Laughing and asked us to consider, is it the GPS is full? Lucy took us on a journey through her experience of having not one, not two, but 3 different kinds of GPSs. Lucy started off by asking us a question rather than telling us a joke. She asked us who had a GPS. Most of us who drive cars do, whether they're built into the car or they're an external GPS, as Lucy described. Lucy told us about her GPS that she first got as a gift, the one she aptly named Clueless. And the funny thing, the joke part of it was the cheapest GPS we could find. So that started us off, making us laugh. She called it Clueless because it didn't take her where she wanted to go. It took her in the wrong direction. What kind of a GPS is this? She made us laugh. She blamed the GPS on wrong directions. She got a TomTom. So then she went ahead and continued to try to find her way. And finally, she told us about her third GPS, her Garmin. And she learned along her journey that you had to read the directions. You had to find out whether it was something we wanted to go the longest way, the quickest way, whether the road had tolls or not. Overall, the jokes flowed smoothly. Actually, the stories flowed smoothly. It was not tedious, and she reiterated that it's not the GPS's fault. And again, she closed with, it's not the GPS's fault. As Kevin mentioned when he was talking about his evaluation for Isaac's speech, I think Lucy could benefit from pausing a little to allow us to laugh and catch our breath and hear about the next phase in the journey, following the directions that the GPS would spew out before it started to say, recalculating, and let us catch our breath a minute. Overall, I think it was a great speech. I love the storytelling aspect of Lucy's style, and I heard more stories and transitions within the stories rather than actual jokes. I was tasked with listening to Lucy's pronunciation, but I could follow everything very well, and I didn't have any encounters with any obstacles with pronunciation that I thought was inappropriate. So great job on that respect. Lucy, you achieved your goal, and I can't wait to hear more stories, whether it's about a GPS or another adventure of yours along your journeys. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sue. Thank you. Please cut the light back there. Thank you. And Joan, you're going to tell us about your new car, the electric car.
I wish. I wouldn't buy an electric car, though. How well did the speaker explain the purpose of the report to the audience? I said he had oodles of information, many types of cars, how they were used, who made them, who bought them, and the benefits throughout the decades. Yes, he was organized clearly and logically. Did he use visual aids? And they go on to question one. I said, no, but everything was explicitly explained. He did not need visual aids because he gave enough information to be descriptive about everything. Was the information given on which the audience could base a sound decision or draw valid conclusions? I almost read that as wild conclusions. I said yes, and he gave the improvements over the years. What's strange about this is, I didn't answer the last three questions, but I'm going to give him an A+ on everything anyway. They talk about him asking us, having us ask him questions about the products he's trying to convey its importance to us and why it's good for us to have them. I'm going to say one thing. I would have asked, how are the sales after so many years? What happens is when you buy an old gas guzzler, as they call them, people have them for 10, 15 years. I'm finding every person I've ever known that had an electric car has sold it the second year, and if they have a lease, they have turned it in right after the third year without any interest in buying because they just don't like the way they run, they weren't powerful enough, stuff like that. Other people are actually afraid of the huge battery because of all the power that lets out, and they're worried about crazy things like cancer. But anyway, there's probably a lot of room for the questions, but we didn't need it. We got so much great information. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joan. And now, double, triple duty. Kevin, you're evaluating Joan's speech.
Yes.
Aren't you glad you came today?
Oh, no question. Fellow Toastmasters, welcome guests, and of course, my friend Joan. Coming back to me. Oh, okay, great. I'm here. So, Joan, do the rules ever change? I love Joan's speech because in it, she told us what we're not going to be eating anymore. So I got from her speech no rice. It has arsenic in it, Parmesan cheese, which I love, or you're actually eating trees, herbs, you're better to grow your own, and that can go for this marijuana medicine that you can have now. Balsamic vinegar is good for you, so that looks like the only thing that's safe. Extra virgin olive oil, you have to make sure it's really a virgin, and you know, not mixed with something else. Himalayan salt, you know, has iodine in it, or does it? I'm really not sure. And is it really good for you? Don't know. I remember the little Morton girl with the parasols too. The lava lamp, positive ions, and that goes right with the theme for our club, which is share the light. If you don't know, you'll see it at the end of the show. And then maple syrup. And this, I think, was the most interesting part of Joan's speech. You don't drizzle, you don't pour. You cut, take it, and dip whatever you're eating to the maple syrup. So elegant, Joan. Do the rules ever change? Another way of saying her title speech is, do they always change the rules? The rules, do they rules change? Do they change the rules? I'm not sure, but I can tell you that I'm not sure about what I'm going to be eating in the future. Thank you so much, Joan, for such a wonderful speech.
I think I've given you too many jobs today. You're sort of losing it around the corner. All right, I have my book up because I don't want you to see your question. All right,
I'm
now,
going to put my glasses on so I can look.
you've got the shortest question in the whole show. All right. You're not supposed to look at what's going on here. All right, Kevin. But Lucy's up first. Lucy, your question in Table Topics, and this is an impromptu for people who aren't familiar with our show. The Table Topic master of the meeting gives you a question that you do not know ahead of time, and you have on the show 1 minute to respond. So, Lucy, your question is, and this happened because I had a long talk with a girl the other day from my high school and college classes, and we spoke and reminisced about our families. Her daughter is my goddaughter, and it made me think of a good question for you. I think most of us remember a special high school friend. Tell us something about one of your high school buddies. Lucy Kahn.
Madam Table Topic Master, fellow Toastmaster, and viewing audience. My best friend in high school is a very rich girl, and she always comes to me and she said, do you want me to buy you a shoes? I said, well, what kind of a shoes is it? Oh, I'll show you. This is a nice shoes. But then I don't realize that I have to pay for it. I thought she's going to give me the shoes, but she seems to be like my best friend because sometimes she gave me free gifts and sometimes she charged me some good things. But I like things that she really wants me to buy, but sometimes she give it to me for a special price. So actually, I like her, and she's still my best friend until now. Thank you.
Thank you. Until now? Wow, she gave herself an open door there,
That's
didn't she,
right.
until now?
After today, it's over. No more
right.
friendship for you.
Kevin, a short question, but I'm dying to hear the answer. Kevin Thompson, what are your 3 best qualities? Kevin Thompson.
Thank you, Fran, fellow Toastmasters, Fran, TV audience. One of my best qualities is being able to tell the truth. The other one is to find humor in everything. And the third is food. I love eating food. Oh, my goodness. And some of the best food. In fact, Lucy went on my Facebook page and she says, where have you been? You know, all the food, I just love it. And I love it too. So follow me on Facebook. I love making you laugh, and you can bet that I'm going to tell the truth.
I can understand truth and humor, but food as a quality?
Oh, yes. I love quality food.
Oh.
Don't you?
I stick to mostly salads and vegetables now. I told you I'm a vegetarian.
Oh, okay,
Don't
that's
eat all
right.
that blood-curdling stuff. At any rate, it's personal. Hello, Sue. You're back again.
Fran.
Everybody's working so hard when we don't have that full of a team today. Sue, this is all based on last month's show. So, other than your commitment to Boy Scouts, how else do you serve your community, Sue Brooks?
Thank you, Fran. Fellow Toastmasters in the audience here and at home, how else do I serve my community? I must admit, my volunteer work with the scouting community as well as the Toastmasters community does take a lot of my time. Occasionally, our Boy Scout group will go out and help in emergency preparedness drills. We will help the community with environmental cleanups. During April, we will see Earth Day, and we will celebrate. So I've participated in a lot of beach sweeps, a lot of grounds cleanups, taking care of the camps. But I must say, working a full-time job, being in Toastmasters, Boy Scouts, and all this other, leaves me very little time for additional opportunities to serve my community. I think I'm doing a good job with what I'm doing at the moment.
Thank you very much, Sue.
Excellent.
All right, Joan. Kevin's having a fit with the time, so let's just
For 3 minutes a
All
day.
right, Joan, you have a long question. If a friend offered to teach you how to ride a horse, milk a cow, or fly a plane, which would you choose? Joan Maurizio. Nobody else is applauding it because they didn't like the question either, right? You
I
didn't
guess
even
milk a
clap.
cow would be the most interesting one. I don't know how to milk a cow. I never tasted fresh milk. And we're running out of time for the show. I hear a lot of stuff going on in that back room. They opened the door and left the door open, so to me that's a hint that we're taking too much time, and you only have about 50 seconds to close, so I'm going to close. But milk a cow, moo.
Thank you, Joan. All right.
I can't believe that she uttered such an answer to
Oh,
that question.
Kevin. Oh, Kevin. Oh, that's terrible. You ought to sell that one. All right, so you're going to be with us. We have 34 seconds, so you're coming back next month to help us out, right?
That sounds good.
Good for you. Rachel said she'll try to get here. Folks, please watch us. We're on every Saturday on Staten Island only, Channel 34, Time Warner, Spectrum, I guess it is now, and FiOS. But we're on more than that during the month. Harold here said we're on about 10 or 12 times a month.
Excellent.
You just had, well, in commercials, I go to 34 and 37. I like the shows on 37 as well.
Okay.
And I keep checking it. At the end of the month, I see the whole show in increments.
And we're done.
And we are done. And 1 second, no seconds, we are out of time. Goodbye, everyone. Would everyone come up and just wave to the camera, please?